good afternoon, at least on the East Coast of the U.S. This is the Practical Prayer Podcast pre-show on New Thought Media Network. I am Bill Marchiony. That's Carol over there. And in mere minutes, we are going to begin recording an episode of the Practical Prayer Podcast. It's going to be episode number 220, which boggles my mind.
Mine too.
We've been at this for a while. I think we've been at this long enough that it could have graduated from high school in this much time.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what.
But
Okay.
we keep on coming up with stuff to talk about. And if you who are listening or watching on the live stream now have a question or a comment, you can put it in your social media, and we can respond in, as we say, real time. Or if you're watching the recording, which I hear people for some reason favor, you can go to the website, which is bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, which is running on a brand new web hosting system today, which will make absolutely no difference to people who are visiting the website, but kept me pretty entertained and busy for a few days last week. Anyway, you can go to the website, and there's a section on the Practical Prayer Podcast in there, and you can submit the same sort of question there about spiritual or practical or esoteric questions, and prayer requests, suggestions, any of that sort of stuff, and we will be happy to respond accordingly. In the meantime, we're going to record this podcast episode. How's your autumn going?
Yeah.
You live near the beach, so it's gotten quiet.
Yes, it is quiet, and I love it because I get to park anywhere I feel like it. I get to go and come as early or late as I like. I take ownership of the beach. Like not so much after Labor Day, but September, after school starts, it's all mine.
All
I
yours
love
all
it.
day.
That's right.
Yep.
So I can hang out till November. And I can't take it anymore. It's too cold.
Yeah, I made the mistake one year of doing a beach retreat for New Year's Eve on the Jersey Shore. And we got up to watch sunrise. And it was really cold. And then it turns out it was really cloudy. And that was about the biggest disappointment that you could have to start the year.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can certainly imagine. Like, explain that away, will you?
Yeah. That was far enough back that we didn't have smartphones to tell us what the weather's actually going to be and what time sunrise is actually going to be here. So we take that stuff for granted now.
Yeah.
Dr. Google knows so many things. We think that we're smart.
Dr. Google.
It's just
I
graduate
love
program.
Google. Yeah.
Yep. Useless information at my fingertips. But boy, I can turn it into a sermon.
Yeah, listen, I can't let Google go. People say, oh, Google is out, Google is this. Listen, for you maybe, but I don't let stuff go. I just integrate it all in what I'm doing.
Yeah. Wikipedia is fun
What I
too.
need.
It's like Google with opinions. All right. Let us, and we know what we're going to talk about, or you're going to surprise me, because we've got three possibilities for the
Yeah, well,
podcast today.
one in oneness, that's one together, one in oneness. And then fate is a part of that. So I will try to explain what my thought was and how those two things came out of it. So
I can
I
hardly
reverse
wait.
engineer it.
All right. Let's get this party started.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the practical. Start again, Carol. Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
Looking forward again to a fun and uplifting conversation or two or three. And I say that because Carol last week had an idea before we got started, and we were talking about principle of talking about unity or oneness. And this week she wants to talk about fate. And this time she's going to pull a Bill and think that she can tie them all three together. Let's see what happens.
Well, okay. It's here we go. I'm going to leave that other part alone. But here we go. This is how I arrived at the point in this discussion. So let's say you're going through hell. You define it. It might be easy to define these days. Hint, hint. So you're going through this really unpleasantness. You see no end. You lose hope, so to speak. And all of this, it just seems, sometimes things seem incredibly overwhelming. And you might see a hint of daylight, and then something crazy happens and makes you think, what happened to the daylight? Right? Is this a joke? Okay, so now you got the feeling that I wanted you to feel. Then you look for, how is this happening? What can I do? What am I doing? What am I saying? Maybe I'm not. You're really looking at this situation thinking, maybe I'm not seeing any things the right way. And you identify, you start thinking, okay, maybe this is just fate. Maybe I just got to accept the way it is, which is a very defeatist place to be. But sometimes we get there. Agreed? So I say, okay, you go to the next thing, you're trying to figure out, who can I blame for this?
Well, that's productive.
Who is responsible? Or you're just trying to find a place, like an event or some turning point that will give you, because you're looking for hope. So where's that handle of hope that you can hold on to? Because it feels like fate. This is like going down. And if I don't want to just give up and go down, is there anything I can hold on to? So I was feeling a lot of that. And so this was my week to do Neville, and I'm doing Neville, totally not thinking about anything except for, what I'm reading, and got to a place where Neville talks about consciousness is everything. Consciousness is everything. I said, okay. And started talking about how it was like taking the high road. So very often, I think when we're talking about spiritual growth and development, we're talking about what we can do for ourselves. But in this thought, and it was actually, I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was Neville's interpretation of the book of Job. He was talking about acting as God. So how do I act like God like this, right? I'm going somewhere with this. Okay, so it's lifting others that are not, lifting their consciousness, lifting them into a different space. You don't need their permission. You're just doing this. And I thought, that is really taking the high road. Okay, I get it. I like the high road, but here comes the test. It goes for anybody, even the one you want to blame. The culprit, the jerk that's doing whatever it is. You got, because the principle you do, it doesn't matter, right? It's indiscriminate. You have to lift them out. And I'm thinking, I'll get out. You're kidding me, right? So this lifting someone out is doing a lot for me too, like the fringes of forgiveness and all of that. But that's another subject. And I'm thinking, you mean I got to lift this person out? And it was very funny, because that's when what we believe in becomes real, becomes authentic. Are you going to live it or not? Or is it just a nice, really lovely story? But that challenged the idea of fate. it does not have to be that way.
Right.
It can be another way. But if we don't all embrace this high road thinking, then does fate come in? And that's what I wanted you to talk about. Because I have a clear understanding and belief of collective consciousness and power of, of all of that. But if there isn't enough, of us taking the high road, does fate come in there? Like, what am I missing here?
I don't think you're missing
Ball
anything.
is in your court now.
Oh, okay, thanks. I don't think you're missing anything. I think perhaps the difficulty that we wind up with is that we try to specify the timetable when the things that we're talking about are going to happen. And there's that wonderful phrase, "It came to pass," and it doesn't explain what it was, and it doesn't explain how it came, and then it passed, it changed, it's different. And that could be this life that we're living. It came to pass. So we eventually pass and we're no longer living this life. In which case, maybe that's a bit of a downer. Or maybe it's the jerk who's ruining everything and bringing his friends in to help. And that comes to pass. And we get really attached to the story we're in the middle of. And it is completely understandable because we're in the middle of it. And the unity oneness aspect of this is that it's all one. So you're talking about, the good things happen when we are spiritually active and we're doing our work and keeping our consciousness lifted and we're doing everything we can to elevate other people, but what if they don't deserve it? Well, that is a slippery slope, because in order for me to believe that somebody, especially one who's acting like a complete jerk, doesn't deserve good, what that requires in my consciousness is a belief that we have to deserve the good that we get. Ouch. That's not the way it works. We are all deserving. I think we mentioned last week the rain falls on the just and the unjust. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do anything to get a rainstorm. You don't have to do anything to deserve a flood. It just happens. That's part of life unfolding. And even the big flood, 40 days and 40 nights, it's dry now, okay? It came to pass. That's, and what we tend to do is we let the events that are going on in our life distract us from our awareness of the oneness and the unity. And then we try to blame forces outside of ourselves, which is really convenient. Oh my gosh. When something happens and I don't like it, and I can have an idea of who's to blame or why this bad thing happened, and I can push it off, and it's well, that's not me, that's them. So they're causing the difficulty in me. Maybe they are. Maybe there's actions that other people are involved in that's causing a change or that's influencing my behavior or attitude or feelings. But they're still my behaviors and attitudes and feelings. So I get to own the part that's internal to me. One of the things that I've been talking about a lot lately is the practice of letting go. Dr. David Hawkins created this very simple technique of letting go. And what he says is that something happens, and then maybe we have an observation that it happened, and that turns into a feeling about it. Sometimes something happens to us, and we have the feeling immediately without having to observe. Somebody steps on your foot. You don't have to observe that they've stepped on your foot. Your foot hurts. This is a feeling of the foot hurting. Or some comment that's made, or somebody that changes something in social or economic structure, and we have a feeling about that. And the feeling is something that resides somewhere in our body. And then we have a thought about the feeling. Well, that's a bad thing. This is no good. This is trouble. This is change. This is difficulty. This is going to ruin everything. This is going to whatever. And then we have an emotion about that. I'm going to be angry with that person. Or not going to be. Now I'm angry with that person. So there was an event, there was a feeling, there was a thought about the feeling, and then there's the emotion. And we tie them all together so quickly, because what we're trying to do is take that feeling and get rid of it somehow. We're playing hot potato with the feeling. The letting go process is basically says, when the feeling comes up, just go with it. Wow, I'm feeling this. Just stay with the feeling. And don't let it turn into a thought, and don't let it turn into an idea for revenge, and don't try and fix it, or don't try to categorize it or assign it someplace. Just be with it. And the feeling will generally shift to another feeling, and then you can go with that one, maybe to another feeling. But it dissipates. The energy of it dissipates without having to go through that process, without having to hold on to the feeling, and without running the risk of having resentments about it later. Because a resentment is for a feeling that you had, that you shoved away somewhere, and it comes back around, because they got to go someplace. Fascinating process to go through, to not get involved in those ideas of fate or blame or deservability.
Okay, I want to push it a little bit further because I get that and I agree with
Okay?
that. So it's like not deservable. I don't worry. Personally, I don't worry about deservability because I don't think I deserve a doggone thing. So I am so happy to be here. Like I am not blaming anybody for anything they're doing. I mean that. But let me say, let me take you on a little imaginary trip that I actually went on myself. I went to the place where the upsetness central.
Mm-hmm.
I went there and I looked at those people that we see as the messing up stuff.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, you lift this person, I get it. I'm not concerned about why you think the way you're thinking. I can't, that's way above my pay grade, probably yours too, because if you knew, you wouldn't be doing it. But anyway, I think, okay, I lift you out. And then I turn around and I look at, I'm not enough. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think, can I do this? Because, and I'm saying this to you because you know how ruthlessly focused I can be.
Yes.
I can be that, and I can be that, but I'm not enough. I know that. So I'm looking around and there's so much division, so much fear, so much. I'm sensitive to that. I understand. I feel it. I hear it. I know it. But what we need is to be ruthlessly focused on the positive, helping, you know what I mean? The idea of helping get this to another place.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fate if I'm not enough? And I know I'm not, but I'm saying if we don't have enough of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is that like looking at it from the negative side, saying, because then the other way of looking at it is what's it going to take to make this happen, rather than I'm not enough to make this happen.
I don't want to get ego struck,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not my job. It's not my job, but I know my part in it. I'm clear about that, but it's not me. I'm not enough. This thing is big. It's like,
Yep.
I can't turn the 18-wheeler over no matter how hard I try. But you have to believe that it is possible to do. And there's so much loss of hope and so much fear and so much hurt that I'm thinking, it's just a lot that you would be asking people to step over and aside from their own feelings and do this heavy lift. I'm thinking too much, aren't I?
Too much? That's a judgment. So let's go with no, not thinking too much, thinking creatively. And maybe there's too big a string of conditions and cause and effect in there. You mentioned the 18-wheeler turns over and you want to lift it up. Well, okay, the way, if I needed to lift an 18-wheeler that had fallen over on its side, I would reach into my pocket for my phone and and call in the cavalry, because it's going to take more resource than I have available with me right now. And in the meantime, once they've been dispatched or summoned, maybe there's something else that I can do to be present in the meantime. Maybe there's, something seemingly or relatively small that in the long run may wind up being even more important than getting the 18-wheeler uprated. And I don't
And
know.
let,
I don't know.
let me throw this one thing in because I left this out. Why I even cared about this in the first place is because of oneness. I cannot deny my oneness with all of this. I won't want to say it, but all of these individuals, you know what I mean? I
The
understand
folks
the
who's causing
connection.
trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the connection. I do. Whether I like it or not doesn't really matter. I get it. So because of that, I must care. And because it's too easy to blame. So I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in it. It just like, oh my goodness, I see the oneness here. So that's what kicked in the strength of the focus. I'm not giving, to not see it this way is not an option. I have to see it this way. So, okay, but I feel a little lost with the truth. And I just would like to maybe understand it in terms of this doesn't have to be fate, does it?
No, it doesn't have to be fate because none of this is permanent. This is all in process and it all came to pass. And our senses, as we've mentioned 100 or 200 times, are really good at showing us contrast. Our eyes can see light, and where there's not light, we call it darkness. And then we assign as much power to the darkness as there is to the light. We feel warmth, and then when there's not warmth, it feels cold to us, so we assign a power to cold. There's no power of cold, there's no power of darkness. It's simply the amount of light or the amount of warmth that's going on. And that's the way that we sense things, and that's the way we think about things. And when our way of life is being challenged, when some malevolent force is there that's threatening the things that are important, there's a contrast that's coming up. And there's that we can treat that as something to fight against, or we can say, this is an invitation, because this is clearly not the world that I want to be living in. This is not going according to my preference. And I am not the one who gets to make all the decisions, but I certainly have some influence over the choices that I'm going to make. And this is demonstrating itself to not be the world that I want to live in. And then we get to pivot. Okay, what kind of world do I want to live in? What are the gifts that I have that I can share to take steps towards bringing that world that I want to live in into being? And it might be things that seem completely innocuous. Paint a placard, go to a protest march, refuse to buy stuff from a particular company, campaign for a political candidate, write a letter to the editor. There are all kinds of things that we can do, and some of them are relatively useless, and some of them wind up being very helpful. And the idea is not to say, oh, this is what I always have to do in this particular situation. It's to acknowledge that unity, that oneness, that we are part of this co-creative power. It is an infinite universe with limitless creative potential. And we're part of it, each of us. So as we set our intentions, as we open ourselves individually and collectively to the sort of world we want to live in, the world changes. The world changes. And it comes to pass. And sometimes we know exactly how it's going to happen. And sometimes it's a complete sudden surprise. It's like we're going along and everything sucks, and then suddenly it gets better. And I mention that because you've had that experience before. Maybe not in the context that we're talking about, for society going sideways, if that's what's been bothering you. But we've seen that happen enough times to say, oh, things can suddenly change without explanation. And remembering that when we're in the midst of an argument, or somebody's cutting us off in traffic, or suddenly ice water gets poured over us inadvertently at a football game, or intentionally with the Gatorade. Um, it's an invitation to experience it differently. Let's take a
Yeah,
break.
okay.
Yeah,
Good.
take a break because there's still lots more to talk about, right?
It's lots to understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcall.org.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
And I gave you a big rant right before we took the break. So now it's your turn.
So while you were explaining this, I was trying to find my center, because I don't think that I'm overthinking it or too involved. I'm feeling a lot of what people feel right now. I feel like, and I don't, this is going to sound weird, but I'm sort of over my own feelings in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling a lot of and then what triggers that is, okay, this is what I understand, but it's not that simple. And then comes, I don't know it all. Just because I understand the principles and that doesn't mean I have the whole story. So in comes this old idea that I hadn't thought about in ages, fate. Is this just how it's supposed to be? And not forever. Like fate, I guess, is that idea that something is forever. But it's what it is for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pause for me. When I talk about it, when I talk about it financially to people, I say, this is a window. So the world's eyes are not on you right now. You have a window. This is opportunity. Okay, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other things going on that's not that simple. And maybe I'm feeling weight.
Yeah.
I think so.
As we are dealing with our moment-to-moment, day-to-day experience of life, it has a tone and a trajectory. And sometimes we are in a downward sweep, and I can remember times when something horrible happened and it took months of sleepless nights to get myself to the point where I could regain my balance. And being in the middle of it, it's like, it's overwhelming. It is absolutely overwhelming. And it has come to pass. And somehow there's something happening that either is a different story or a bigger story or a continuation of the story where it doesn't stay that way forever.
Mm-hmm.
Things change and shift and move back into a different equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
So, and history has this tendency of repeating itself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it does.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about in the last 100 years. History has repeated itself going back as far as recorded civilization.
Mm-hmm.
So the Greeks and the Romans had the same sorts of political problems that we're having now. And they solved them well or poorly. to the extent that they did. And that's an observation that we are participating in the history that we're writing now, that people are going to look back on in a week or a year or a decade or a millennium. And so the guidance is, once again, what am I called to do? What am I called to let go of? What are the gifts and resources that I have available? And how can I bring them to bear in a way that's going to help?
I'm smiling because you're bringing back some memories, right, of something that I thought of. History repeats. And I thought, okay, listen. I'm so glad I paid attention in school, right? I had no choice. I had to come home to Ruth. You better be able to explain what happened. But, I know history. And so then I'm standing there thinking like, but we know history. We don't want this to happen again. You don't want to, and I'm looking at even the people that we would say cause, the people you're thinking, you guys know history. You don't want this is not a good thing here. And then it is. I mean, then it just happens. That idea, which I stand by, look, you do something dumb, don't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot of you sitting here. Isn't anybody thinking, this is not a good idea?
Yeah.
Then I run out of arguments.
Right. Well, and the strategy of, I don't like the history book, so I'm just not going to read the history book. It's like that's not a good way of getting away from it.
Right.
And are those the failings of humanity and of civilization, of human nature, of like somebody, things getting good and then people wanting to get all the goodies for themselves, because that's what's going on now. And redistributing the wealth so the people who have some get more by taking it away from the people who don't. And that's a gross oversimplification of what's going on. There's a lot of nuance and a lot of things that you can point to and say, well, this sucks and that sucks and this is awful and how dare they do that, and get your self-righteous indignation in full swing. And we can do that. And we can also understand that in the democracy in ancient Greece, the people in charge, they started, the ones who had some money started trying to buy influence, and it worked, and they got more influence, and then it upended the thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, can we learn from those lessons? Sure, we can. Are we gonna? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Well, by the way, 24 hours made up a day then. It still does. So some things haven't changed at all.
Yeah, it's still with us. Yeah. So I got some real elementary school questions on this, and this is it knocks fate right out the box. Let's get in a common sense area where if you make everybody poor, then they are sick. So how will they pay for the pharmaceutical stuff that they need? They can't. So then the pharmaceuticals can't survive off of y'all just cream of, the top there. It ain't enough of y'all to sustain it. So that seems to be a question. So then you make everybody broke. They can't buy anything. So who's going to buy y'all stuff that you guys are, that you made you rich? For example, this is so funny. This is funny. Okay, everybody knows me. Like, I would be infinitely better off without next day delivery. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay. Just a way of life. If you take that, I can't afford to go to the place that gives me next day delivery. Okay, listen, I'm creative. I'll figure out how to live without you. Mm-hmm. But you can't live without me. Yep. Did you think about that?
No. That's the interesting thing, is that we don't have to think about those things until it's too late. And then if we're in that mindset, then we can just whine and blame somebody else and and try something different. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, but that's the technique.
But we're smart. We're intelligent people.
We
Like,
are.
what did I just say? I said I got an elementary school question. You make
Oh.
me broke. I can't buy your stuff. What are
I
you?
understand.
What?
There are lots of elementary school questions that people just don't want to answer. And
Okay.
our opportunity is to know that that infinite intelligence that knows everything, that shares itself as all of its creation, is sharing itself as those people now. And perhaps there's an opportunity for, let's not even call it enlightenment. Let's call it a clue. Let's call it,
I love it. Yes. Yes. Got a
and
clue here.
an aha moment that what's going to really be good for me to be able to get a lot of money from these people instead of taking their money and having it given directly to me. Let's give them a bunch of money and they can buy my stuff and keep the whole thing going. And that way I get to keep growing because eventually they'll run out of money and there won't be any more to keep the whole thing going. And that's we keep on not paying attention stuff. The economy is based on growth. It has to keep on growing in order for something to happen. And when it stops growing, that's when there's a failure. And if all the money gets in the hands of the rich people, they can't move enough money around to keep it growing. Yeah, you need poor people. You need poor healthy people to go to work
Yeah.
with enough money that they can buy stuff.
And oh, by the way, right? This ain't nothing new. You
No.
got to be where you are, Mr. B, because I buy for next day delivery. This ain't nothing new here. Did you forget? Have you lost it altogether? So I figured it's simple to me, but maybe it's over my head. But it's still simple.
Yeah.
You got to keep the money going or it's not going to be useful. It will have no value.
Well, we can keep talking until we've solved all the problems of the world. I'm not sure that's going to happen because I'm not sure that the people who would need to take the next step are listening. However, what we can do is a prayer, a practical prayer which actually has an impact, an influence on that creative power that creates everything. So let's take a break and then do one of those and see what changes.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marchiony's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the new thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony. I just got to tell you, I just had the most hilarious moment during this break. I kept thinking, okay, Carol, maybe this has happened. What good could come out of it? Well, maybe it's breaking your habit of the next day delivery, girl, because your portfolio would be infinitely better off if you didn't have access to next day delivery. Okay. That you gotta, I had to laugh.
And, all right. Yeah. And there's also possible that you can do the next day delivery thing with a lot more of a feeling of gratitude. Like, isn't this cool? Rather than I'm just going to get it.
Oh, no, I'm happy. I'm thoroughly happy with it. And that's what's part of this. You're taking my joy away from me.
Well, the chances of us convincing somebody that what they've been up to is not helpful in the grand scheme of things, even though it's been working so far pretty well for them, is relatively limited. So we're going to take the broad view. We're going to look at the big picture. And this prayer is about that infinite power and presence, that infinite intelligence, that bright light of divine love that shines through all of creation, shining more obviously and clearly and powerfully through everyone, including those who we have observed to be part of the problem. Yes, we have to let go of our thoughts that God is going to smite them, that they're going to be punished somehow for the transgressions that we have observed. It might happen, but that's really nothing for us to get ourselves attached to. And also we then would have to believe in a world where people get smited for doing things that we don't like. And that would include us, and I'd just as soon not be in that sort of a world. So this is an invitation for wisdom, for insight, for balance and harmony, for each of us and for all of us. So we can turn our awareness from the local little picture stuff that our senses are telling us about what the world is and what the world means and who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and turn our attention to that one divine power and presence, that one limitless love, that one creative source that has been sharing itself as its creation since the very beginning of time. It's nature, it's spirit, it's God, it's the Big Bang, it's the divine, it's whatever it is that we want to call it. It is that one creative power that is sharing itself and has been sharing itself since the very beginning of time, as every facet, every aspect, every particular expression of its creation. Everything is that one divine presence taking unique form. That everything includes me. It includes each one who is listening to this prayer. It includes everyone everywhere, including all those who I perceive to be victims and all those I perceive to be victimizers, to everybody who I consider to be caught up in the problem. It includes everybody who I perceive to have caused or be causing the problem. All of us have that divinity in common. That one divine power and presence is indwelling. It is not just available to us, it's the essence of what we are. We are individualizing that divine presence right now, right here, and always. So what I'm claiming now is a greater awareness of the bright light of divine love that we are, to see it more clearly within ourselves, through our actions, and through everything we interact with. It is not me over here doing stuff. It is not anyone over here inside doing stuff to inanimate objects or undeserving expressions of the divine out there. We are all one. What happens there happens here. What happens within happens without. So there is the opportunity for that bright light to be shining even more brightly through and as and in each of us and all of us. There is the possibility for uplift, for harmony, for goodness and prosperity to unfold for each of us in our own way and in a different way for each of us. So that's the invitation that I'm making. The claim is, to the greatest degree possible, that everyone, everywhere, is even more fully aware of the divine power and presence that they are, of their connection with the one, of their connection with all the rest of creation, and participate in that creative process in a way that brings more good, more life, more light, more uplift into each life individually, into all together, and into the world itself. This is the claim I'm making. If it sounds outlandish, if it sounds big, it's a big universe. And that infinite creative power that created all of it is creating this goodness now. And so with gratitude for all of this good and the ability to set this invitation in motion, and that same creative power that has created galaxies, the deep feeling of thanks, I speak this word, I let it go, and I know that it's so. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
That concludes the Practical Prayer podcast for this week. That prayer felt big.
It did.
The grand
It
sweep
did.
of all of creation being even more
Yeah.
enlightened.
Well, you started at the point where it started getting big. Quite honestly, the issue that we alluded to seemed to get smaller,
Yep.
Yeah. And it feels that way sometimes. Then there are other times, like it's really hard to think small when the side of a building falls off.
Yep.
but only hello. But yes, but it's constantly pulling myself back into focus, and grounded. And I have this saying that I've used forever, get a grip on your little self. So I use that with everybody. People laugh at me, and I thought, Carol, get a grip on your little self. This is cool. It's big, and you can almost. I'll leave it at that because we're still on. We're still on there.
Yep. Which reminds me, thank you to all the folks who are joining us on New Thought Media Network, either live or on the recording. If you have a question or a comment, you can always go to the website, bethelight.com, like it says right there, and there's a section for the Practical Prayer Podcast, and you can put your questions, suggestions in there, and we will address them for you. And thank you for being here. And we're going to close the podcast now so Carol and I can talk behind your back.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.